Our next guest, I'm so excited. This is Amber Athey. She's from the Daily Caller and Spectator. Amber, thank you so much for joining the Grace Curley Show.
Thank you for having me.
I have to say, Amber, you got a huge fan base. I tweeted it out and people immediately were so excited. They were like, okay, we're going to need the podcast of this, the video. I was a little taken aback by the outpouring of support.
Well, it's really good to hear, especially since I had quite a day yesterday with the Twitter mob. So the fact that people are tweeting at you about my guest appearance on the show is great.
So, Amber, let's walk through this AOC thing first, and then we'll get to the Twitter mobs after. AOC was talking about the Capitol riots, and you make a point of saying that she made this about herself. And I was talking to someone about your piece today, and I told them your point of view, which was that AOC brought up a sexual assault as a way of kind of weaponizing anyone or weaponizing an argument so that no one else could kind of combat anything she said. And I brought this up to someone and they said to me, wow, well, you can't say that on the air. You can't. And you write that in your piece. You say, I know a lot of people don't want to say this, but you said it anyway.
Yeah, I thought it was important to say, and, especially as a fellow woman writing for The Spectator, that there are so many people who would be scared to say something because sexual assault is such a sensitive topic. And I think that's totally fair. But when I look at what Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez actually said during her live stream on Monday, it really does feel like she was using this as a political cudgel. And the reason why is she went beyond just saying, this event was particularly traumatic for me, or I was very scared because I have this history of sexual assault, which I think is a completely fair point to make. I feel for her, and obviously for anyone who's been through a situation like that. However, she then went on to project those feelings and her traumatic experience onto people who criticized her for claiming that Senator Ted Cruz had tried to have her killed through his rhetoric about the election. So what she was doing by comparing these people who criticized her to abusers, whether sexual or otherwise, is she made it impossible to ever criticize her response to this Capitol storming. And she's never offered any evidence for the fact that Ted Cruz tried to have her killed beyond the fact that he wanted to object to the electors and the guaranteeing of the election, and instead has simply tried to silence anyone who's criticized her for saying that, to prevent people from ever saying it again, and indeed making herself out to be the victim when she was the one who lobbed this baseless accusation in the first place.
And another thing, Amber, I'm talking to Amber Athey. She's from the Daily Caller and Spectator, as well as numerous other outlets. Amber, another thing you bring up, which I think is important, is that the quote is, the reason I'm getting emotional in this moment is because these folks who tell us to move on, that it's not a big deal, that we should forget what happened. That's how AOC started this comment. And I have to say, I don't know many folks who are saying that. And it starts to make me feel as though she's setting up a straw man here.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I tried to find the source of this claim, and it turns out this is another thing that Ted Cruz said, but it wasn't in relation to Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez's reaction to the Capitol storming or how she felt about it. What he was actually saying was he was making an argument against impeaching the president, which is an argument many people are making because obviously Trump is no longer in office. There's an argument as to whether or not he even had anything to do with this, considering the people who stormed the Capitol started before he ever told them to walk over there, considering he told people to protest peacefully during his speech at the White House ellipse. So so Ted Cruz is saying move on because impeachment is not the right course of action to take in response to this event. And so Ocasio-Cortez is responding to that statement, again, taking Ted Cruz out of context, lobbing another baseless accusation, and creating a straw man, like you said. And that was when she brought up the sexual assault. She didn't initially bring up the sexual assault to talk about how traumatized she was. It was actually in order to immediately attack her critics.
Amber, I want to move on. I'm the straw man now. I want to move on, but I do want to move on to your other piece about Joe Biden. You bring up a phrase he uses all the time, and it blows my mind that he's continued to use it as more and more stories have come out. And that's when he says his word as a Biden. And you kind of break down all of the reasons why his word as a Biden does not mean much. I want to start with Frank Biden. Can you tell people a little bit about that relationship and why you think it discredits Joe Biden?
Yeah, well, both of Biden's brothers actually have been involved in some pretty shady business practices. Frank Biden is involved in real estate, actually, and has used his brother's name repeatedly to try to get business for his firm. He was criticized on impeachment day, no less, for talking in an ad for his company about the fact that his brother is going to be in the White House. So it certainly seems like he is interested in trading influence off of the Biden name. Not exactly a turn of events that you would associate with honesty or integrity. And then Biden's other brother was involved in business with Hunter Biden, who, of course, his dealings with foreign businesses, as well as his own personal shortcomings, are really well known and well covered in conservative media. When you look at all of the public-facing Biden figures, it becomes very clear that these are not exactly the people you would want to associate with yourself when you're trying to tell people that your word means something.
Right. And Amber, out of all of Biden's executive orders that he's made thus far, all the executive actions that he's taken, are any of them standing out to you as particularly dangerous or harmful to America in general?
I'm particularly concerned about the suspension of the Migrant Protection Protocols program that Biden is floating. That is the program that Trump implemented for illegal immigrants to be sent to wait out their adjudication of their court cases in Mexico rather than being caught and released into the United States. This was an obvious loophole in the immigration system where illegal immigrants would come to the border. They knew that they would get caught, however, that they would be released into the U.S. pending their court dates and could essentially disappear and just never show up for court. They could live in the United States indefinitely with an illegal status. The solution to that was to have them not wait in the U.S. and either be held in detention or wait in a safe third country, and that agreement was made with Mexico. Biden wants to undo all of that progress and reintroduce the incentive for illegal immigrants to come to our border and make false claims of asylum in the hopes that they're going to gain access to the United States.
Now, Amber, I agree with you on that. I think another one is the Keystone XL pipeline. I think a lot of people have fears about both of those things. My next question for you would have to be, what do you see for Republicans going into 2022 and 2024? There seems to be kind of two schools of thought here. There's the old school Republicans, Liz Cheney, Lindsey Graham. They're all kind of sticking together. And, they're getting nice write-ups in the Washington Post. And then there's kind of a new branch, which is the Ron DeSantis's and people who aren't afraid to, make enemies with the press and say what they feel. What do you think is going to happen in 2022 or 2024?
The Republicans would be really remiss if they did not embrace the latter. And that's because when you actually look at the election, although Trump did lose on the presidential ticket, in all of the races where he endorsed these congresspeople and senators, they performed really, really well. Republicans far outperformed expectations in the House and Senate races. They obviously didn't hold the Senate, but were far closer than anyone predicted, and they gained a significant number of House seats, whereas most of the media predictions were that Republicans were actually going to lose more seats in the House and that this would be a blue wave. So when Trump is on the ticket, or when Trumpism is on the ticket, the Republican Party does really, really well. And the problem in Georgia actually was not that these senators were too Trumpy. It's actually that they probably weren't Trumpy enough, and they were seen as these establishment figures, particularly because of Kelly Loeffler's problems with the insider trading.
Right.
And so when you go into 2022 and you say, well, we want to just get rid of Trump and Trumpism entirely, I think that's the wrong answer. The right answer is you can actually separate the ideology of Trumpism, which is sort of a nationalist populist message, from the person. And that's a great way of bringing these suburbanites back into the fold who liked a lot of Trump's policies, but didn't really like his personality. And I think that's one of the big reasons that Trump didn't win on the presidential ticket.
Now, I'm talking to Amber Athey from the Daily Caller, and I have one more question for you, Amber, and from Spectator. I'm sorry. My next question for you would be, if you had to predict what's going to go on with impeachment, I know it's starting up again. What do you see happening? Do you see the Democrats overplaying their hand? Do you see this working out well for them? Give us kind of your crystal ball predictions.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, if the Democrats were serious about this impeachment mess, then they would have done it immediately. Their whole claim for pursuing impeachment was that Trump was a unique threat to the country and that he needed to be removed from office immediately. Well, Trump's not in office anymore, and it's been several weeks since the Capitol storming, and we still haven't made much progress on impeachment. So that just tells you how serious the Dems actually are about this. And at this point, people are going to start wanting to, and here I go, inflicting more trauma on AOC again, but move on from this event. And at this point, doing this, almost a month after it happened, it's going to start to look vindictive. It's going to look petty. And Trump hasn't even really spoken publicly at this point. He's released a few statements from his lawyers, but for the most part, he's been out of the public eye. Bringing him back into the fold to pursue this impeachment, I don't think is going to resonate with a lot of voters who are feeling like they've been disappointed by the Biden presidency so far, and especially by the fact that they still haven't received their $2,000 checks.
And especially by the fact that they haven't seen much of Joe Biden, Amber. I was thinking about this today, and a lot of your pieces you write about Hunter, and that was a common theme, was where's Hunter? Where's Hunter? And then I started to think today, where's Joe? I haven't seen him actually speak to reporters in quite some time.
Yes, and the press often forgets that Trump was one of the most accessible presidents in modern history. He would talk to the press directly, taking whatever questions they wanted at least twice a week, every time he boarded Marine One to travel, certainly, and occasionally in the briefing room. Biden has notoriously been a very difficult president to get a hold of. He was a difficult candidate to get a hold of. And so people are having to go through his press secretary, who stumbles through these briefings with ums and ahs and circle backs. And they're starting to realize how good they actually had it covering a president when Trump was in office.
Amber Athey is from The Spectator. She's their Washington editor. She's also the host of Unfit to Print podcast. Amber, where can people find you on Twitter?
They can find me at Amber_Athey.
Awesome. Thank you so much for joining us. And make sure you check out Amber's stuff. She writes great pieces, and she's not afraid of the mob. She's not afraid of cancel culture, which is very rare nowadays. February is recognized as American Heart Month, but talking about supporting heart health is not enough. Nearly half of all U.S. adults have heart health concerns. I talk to kids my age, and a lot of them have high blood pressure. People are stressed out. And if you want to do something that's easy, you don't have to reinvent the wheel. You just take SuperBeets Heart Chews daily. Just 2 SuperBeets Heart Chews per day give you the cardiovascular support and promote the heart-healthy energy you need every day. SuperBeets Heart Chews combine non-GMO beets and clinically researched grapeseed extract, shown to be 2 times as effective at supporting normal blood pressure than a healthy lifestyle alone. In addition to a healthy diet and exercise, supplementing your efforts with SuperBeets Heart Chews to your daily routine is an easy decision to make. It really is easy, and it helps support healthy blood pressure and heart health. I know Jared likes it for his circulation, keeps his hands warm. I have the same thing. I take it, I feel energy, but I also just feel better as the days go on. And now when you buy a bag of SuperBeets Heart Chews, you can get a second for 50% off, plus free shipping when you make your purchase at getsuperbeets.com/grace. That's getsuperbeets.com/grace. Getsuperbeets.com/grace. We'll be back on the other side with your calls, 844-500-4242. I'm Grace, and this is The Grace Curley Show.
She's never held office, but she paid the whiskey priest's monthly rent once. She's Grace Curley.